there's some things that we need to discuss, TJ.
Yeah, brother. Sports Illustrated came out with a list. And you know me, I love a good list.
Yeah.
I love a bad list.
Right.
Lists are great. But
Lists are great.
Sports Illustrated came up with their top 20 greatest WWE wrestlers of all time list. And of course, anytime you do something like this, you're going to cause a ruckus online. And that's exactly what this list did.
Yeah.
As you can see on the screen there, we have coming in at number 20, Becky Lynch, all the way down to number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
A lot of people have taken umbrage with this list. O'Shea,
They always
your
do.
thoughts?
You know, I look at this list and I really want to hate it. You know, there's something in me that's like, something's off about this. But I mean, when you look at body of work, when you look at what they've brought in as far as growth of the business and yada, 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 and the moments that a lot of them had, it's hard to kind of pick where you think somebody should be higher. Number one right now, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't give a damn. Hulk Hogan, you might as well not be on my list.
But you got to take your personal feelings out of it and go.
I'm just saying, for O'Shea Jackson Jr., anybody who knows me know how I feel. And Terry, you just don't do it for me. But I would think there's a part of me that doesn't, and I understand that it's a weird time, but it's hard for me not to see Brock on there.
Agreed.
Brock Lesnar, dude, like,
Agreed.
That's a bad dude.
He's one of, in my opinion, he's put himself on one of, I mean, obviously, I don't even need to defend Brock Lesnar as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. When Brock decides that he wants to sell for you, he will sell for you. When Brock decides that, I don't need to sell for this guy, he won't. But the fact of the matter is, you look at the body of work and the career, he's the final boss. Before The Rock was the final boss.
Yeah.
Well, actually, The Rock was before him, but you know what I'm saying. The Rock wasn't the final. The Rock wasn't the final boss technically yet. At the point where it seemed like Brock was the final boss.
Yeah,
is what I'm getting at. Look, the 20 names on this list, I'm fine. Like, you can move one here and move one there, blah blah yada yada. But the most glaring omission to me when you see 20 greatest WWE wrestlers of all time is the man who many people would put at number 1 on their list, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Now, I can understand if you go, he achieved most of his success outside of WWE, but that's kind of crazy to me when you consider he's a 2-time world heavyweight champion, former intercontinental champion, former tag team champion, and a member of one of the best factions, Evolution, that we've seen in this business. So you say that, and then I go, okay, well, what about Chris Jericho? He started off in WCW.
Absolutely.
But I will say, despite the fact that I was down with Chris Jericho in WCW, he got his biggest push. He became the biggest star while he was in WWE, so I can understand. But any list like this that leaves Ric Flair off is a list that personally I just can't co-sign. I can't put my signature. I can't sign off. I can't, dictate it not read. I can't let that go through without pointing out the fact that a list without Ric Flair is just not a list.
Yeah, and lists are always touchy.
Yeah.
They're always,
and it's subjective.
Yes, exactly. That's what we have to
That's
remember.
why I think we weren't as mad as a lot of people were, because it is subjective. It's how you enjoy your wrestling.
And you have to understand that. I remember when Apple just recently did the 100 greatest albums of all time, people went ballistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
They went nuts. So lists are always good for that. We have to understand that these are somebody else's interpretations, but Ric Flair and Brock Lesnar not being there is crazy. But at the same time, I'm like, who do I feel comfortable with taking off?
Yeah, that's the problem.
To put taking two people off that list. I'm not taking Becky off that simply because what she did when the man was, at the height of its hype, was crazy.
Yeah.
I'd never seen nothing like that. And it was so genuine. It was so authentic. And everybody was a just hell yeah. Like, when you see Becky, when you heard the music, when she took on the moniker, she was so over it was like she was the female Stone Cold. Like, it was so crazy around the wrestling world. She, you're not taking her off. Like I said, I got my things about Hulk Hogan. Never liked Chris Jericho, but that's because he's good at his job. He pissed me off as a kid. Like, dude's, he's a really nice guy. But, like, there's nobody that I feel comfortable taking off. I mean, the fact that they even did a top 20 lets you know that there were some arguments in the office.
Yeah, for sure. 10 wasn't enough.
Yeah, 10 is not enough. And, like, man, it's crazy not to see Rick and Brock.
Yeah, Rick on there. So, I kind of I threw down the other day just a list of names that basically I gave a list of 20 to go against this list. Maybe we have our own war games or, something. But 20 wrestlers who, and like, no one in the back knows this shit. I just jotted down 20 names that didn't make this list that I feel if you take the WWE out, you have to say these are 20 of the greatest of all time. So we have Ric Flair. Going back, because I like to consider myself a historian somewhat. Lou Thez, one of the greatest NWA champions of all time. Gorgeous George. He was the first, I think, really big TV sensation that came, first TV star in the world of wrestling was Gorgeous George. Then, of course, you've got Harley Race, 8-time NWA champion, one of the toughest men alive, as every wrestler would tell you back in those days. Bob Backlund.
That's your guy.
You know that Bob Backlund's my guy. Look, he was really devoid of charisma. I can admit that. He wasn't great on the mic. But in terms of what wrestling was there, mat-based, believable, you want a guy who could stretch somebody. You want a guy who, if a work turned into a shoot, they could handle themselves. Bob Backlund, despite the fact that everyone said he looked like Howdy Doody, would roll you up and twist you like a blunt. People knew that as well. They didn't test Bob Backlund. Okay. You don't get to be WWF champion for 6 years without being special, without filling the house, without selling out Madison Square Garden. He did that. He deserves to be on there. Then you got the Terry Funk, another guy, Dusty Rhodes, Buddy Rogers, Antonio Inoki. We mentioned his name last week. Real G's move in silence like Vern Gagne. Dory Funk Jr., Nick Bockwinkel. If you want to talk Japanese wrestlers, Misawa, he was one of the greatest. Like I said, along with Inoki, Jack Briscoe, Ricky Steamboat, Kurt Hennig, Sting, Bryan Danielson, another guy who's one of my favorite, Danielson and the Great Muta. I mean, my goodness, Eddie Guerrero is not on this list, man. Like, come on. Rey Mysterio, Jushin Liger, Hashimoto, Okada, Omega, like Tanahashi, Nakamura, Terry Gordy, Rick Martel. There's just so many people who can make a list. So I understand. I'm not really going to get on the list too bad because I understand it's almost an impossibility to lower that list down. I just want to give a shout out to some wrestlers who I feel a lot of people would say should be on that list, and some of those guys. And I didn't even mention the women. My favorite wrestler, male or female, do you know who it is?
Your of all time? No.
Just Asuka. To me, Asuka's the GOAT. Yeah. Asuka to me is the greatest women's wrestler I've ever seen. She's my favorite. I'd love to see her on this list. Charlotte Flair recently should be on this list. Wendy Richter, who, when I was a wee little baby watching wrestling, she beat the Great Moolah. She was like the first woman wrestler I ever really knew was Wendy Richter. And there's so many more. Bull Nakano. I mean, Leilani Kai, like I can't, the fabulous Moolah, Mae Young. There's so many women that could deserve to be on.
Mark Henry is about to beat your ass if you just said Mae Young.
I just said she deserves to be on the list. That's all I'm saying.
I was waiting, bro.
But yeah, so it's interesting. I'm hoping in the comment section of all our socials, you guys let us know, who do you think should be on this list? Who'd they get right? Who'd they get wrong? Who'd I get right? Who'd I get wrong? Let us know. Holler at us.
Side note, because you brought up Asuka.
The greatest.
I want to make a public announcement. WWE, I will never, ever, ever forgive you for making Asuka and Shinsuke lose at the same WrestleMania. I'll never get over it. I know.
Why? Why would you bring that up now?
I'll never get over it.
You see me? I'm starting to shake.
Bro, I was so hot. Like,
I'm starting to shake because you know who my second favorite wrestler is?
Nakamura.
Shinsuke Nakamura. And I'm telling you,
Born
people,
February 24th. That's my birthday.
he is someone who, when I start getting it heavily in the Wrestle Kingdom, I think the first Wrestle Kingdom I watched was 2010. So that might have been Wrestle Kingdom 7, 8. And ever since then, every year since then, the last 14 years, I'm up at 3:30 in the morning watching Wrestle Kingdom. Kenny Omega once lost the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. I didn't feel his shoulders were pinned. I put a tweet out. He responded to me at 4 a.m. in the morning. That's why Kenny Omega is a guy I really like, you know. But yeah, Nakamura, I feel like he should have gotten that title off of AJ. And when it comes to Asuka and Charlotte at WrestleMania, my buddy John Pierre Marina used to be a writer for WWE back in the day. And, you know, hopefully I will have John on because he can tell you a lot of the stories behind the scenes stuff, what it goes into creating characters, how matches are made, and so and so. But we were watching together and, you know, Asuka was on the undefeated streak. Yeah. And I was torn. I'm like, I kind of feel like maybe she'll lose because I don't want the fans to turn on her because you know how fickle fans are. Yeah. She never loses. But then she lost to Charlotte, and I still to this day have not gotten over it.
Yeah, it upsets me, the Shinsuke and AJ Styles.
Yes. The low blow thing happened.
Yeah, like, and I understand that there is
a language
barrier. Get him a manager.
Very easy.
Get him a manager, man. Like Shinsuke.
The most charismatic wrestler maybe I've ever seen is Shinsuke Nakamura. And if you're only basing it on what you've seen recently, and we haven't even seen him, like, I'm going to put Shinsuke on the side of a milk carton. Where's my guy at?
Yeah.
I miss him. First of all, when you can captivate the audience with your theme song and you have them singing along, right then and there, that's a recipe for success. He had that. Charismatic, the moves, just, you know, he was like if you took Michael Jackson and Freddie Mercury and put them together with, you know, Bruce Lee. That's what Shinsuke Nakamura was. And I'm still holding out hope that one day he'll get one of those world titles. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, which is really upsetting to me as a Nakamura fan. But we'll see. We'll see.
We still trying to get guests around here, but I'll tell you where he went. I'll tell you where he went. Anyway, watch new episodes of No Contest Wrestling every Wednesday or listen wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us at No Contest Wrestling Podcast on Instagram.